But then queen e4 hits this and this. That was Magnus's idea. And it looks like there is no way into this king. Well, in this position, Maxime sacrificed the rook! Rook takes f7. That is a wicked move. Are you kidding me? If you take with the king, this is mate? It's just mate. It's mate on g7, on e7. And if you take with this rook, check here, queen h5. Oh my god. This is one of the most disrespectful rook sacrifices I've ever seen in my life. It's directly in Magnus's face. So Magnus goes here, rook g7. He still doesn't move the rook. Check. And now he has to lose the queen to not get mated. This is now the position. What a ridiculous endgame. This pawn that landed there on move 10 is still the anchor of White's position, and it is impossible to get rid of. Yarov saw one detail that was missed by his opponent. And in this position, Mamedyarov sacrificed the rook to e3. One of the most disrespectful rook sacrifices I have ever seen. Rook sacrifices are generally violent. You smash through a position. Not that move, but you smash through. You sacrifice it for a knight to open up the king. You very rarely slide it down the board and it stays alive, but it goes straight through fire. You cannot take this, because in this position, I will take with check, and then I will take the pawn. I am forking the queen, the knight, and mate. A triple fork of epic proportions. The most powerful piece you have, the second most powerful piece you have, and the square which matters the most. And rook to e3. And my friends, the other threat of this move is to take the knight, which stops mate. So the only way to survive here is to make sure the king can run. You have to play rook to e1. The idea is that after take, queen h2, that's not a checkmate. And after queen h1, I escape. Where do I escape? e2. So what does black have to do in this position? You go all the way back here, rook to e1. Black has to sacrifice the rook again, leaving it exactly where it is, and White's position is completely defenseless. The threat is renewed. Rook takes f3, queen h2, and queen to h1. There is absolutely nothing you can... Queen takes b2. White sacrifices the rook in the corner of the board. Oh my god. Queen takes a1. Eric is now up 5 points of material, but he loses the bishop. The queen is staring. The rook is staring. The pawn is about to become another queen. Queen a5 check, king to d1. Eric might go for repetition here, but he plays here. He grabs the pawn. He grabs the pawn, and now White sacrifices the rook. Rook to c6. The idea of this move is to attract Black's king like a magnet away from the pawn on e6. And when that pawn falls, Black's position is going to be in dire straits. But before we even take that pawn, we play knight takes. You attract the king into a double check of two pieces. With one move, you have activated both the knight and the bishop. And anywhere Black goes, he's in huge trouble. King going here, there's queen e6, you run here, I take the rook, I also have a fork. So you have a knight hanging, and you have a rook hanging, and instead you hang your queen. In reality, the queen now has eyes on this and this. And if rook takes a1, nothing can save the king except the bishop. What does Black do now? Black sacrifices the rook. The rook on c5 is completely hanging. But you open the door for the bishop, and my friends, this is over. White is mated. Doesn't matter that there's the queen and a rook standing around. The only way that White survives this is by giving up the queen back and being a full knight down. The idea of bishop f8 is to meet this move with getting the knight out, and that is winning as well. But bishop f8 was played in this position. And in this position, Hans Niemann sacrificed the rook! Rook takes g8. But what could possibly be the idea? Okay. Well, this is the idea. Now this is a check. And the idea is to remove the pawn from the defense of the king. So if you play king h8, bishop h6 is game over. But what if you play king h7? Well, you lose on the g file. You cannot stop queen g8 mate. How insane is that? If bishop g7, queen g7, you have no other way to move your bishop. You can give a check. I go here, and you could sack your queen. That delays the inevitable. So rook takes g8, rook takes g2, bishop g7. And in this position, Hans Niemann decided to sacrifice the second rook! Rook takes g7. I can't fully yell because my throat hurts. Rook takes g7. Both rooks sacrificed to open up the king. The king is no longer with his knight and bishop. This bishop has been walled out for the entire game. The queen is hardly a defender of the king. And it's not that we go in with the queen now. We do it in a much more clean way. We take like this. The point is that the black king cannot go to g8 because then that and that is mate. So after bishop takes h6, the king goes to h7. And Hans Niemann plays here. Oops. He plays bishop g5, he takes the queen, and pawn to f6. It's the rook. That's mate. And if you go here, I can play e5, I can play here, I can play check, 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 take everything. So pawn to f6, and Shreyas Real resigned. In this position, Andrei Volokitin sacrificed the rook! Rook takes e7. But why? Why would he do that? It's the culmination of his entire plan. What am I talking about? Why am I speaking in riddles? Well, to get his bishop out of danger now, he gives a check. But it's not about that. He didn't do this to give a check. He did this to remove the bishop from the defense of the diagonal, and now he plays g5. The pawn is blocking black's own pieces. That move f5 by Hans was an overcommitment. Now the pawn is blocked. The rook was sacrificed to advance the pawns. Connected passing pawns. Opposite color bishop escorts the pawns because nobody can fight back against it. And this bishop still cannot get out. And there was no way to stop this. This still would have worked because if here, bishop e7 is a fork. A brilliant positional sacrifice of a rook. Spectacular positional understanding. Knight g1, this man sacrifices the rook. The idea is to force the king there, and now you still threaten mate. But wait, it's not mate. But wait, it is mate because of this. So how do you defend yourself? Well, obviously queen g4. That doesn't work. Actually, if you play queen g4, I take the knight. You take my queen, I take, and then I check you and I get out. And apparently, at the end of this whole sequence, black is chilling because he won so many pawns. In this position, Andrei Volokitin sacrificed the rook! That was a blooper. We're not going to edit that out. That's hilarious. That's going to end up in a compilation somewhere. He can't castle. Vincent can't castle. He can't castle in either direction. Take, knight e4, and you just sacrifice the rook. You sacrifice the rook because it cannot be taken, because before I take, I will check you. And your king is stranded in the center of the board. King e8, queen g8 is mate. King here, this is mate. Rook ae6 instead, queen g7, d6. What a knockout. Rook takes d6! The simple idea being, if this, then this. And if the king goes here, rook c4, you're mated. And if you take with the rook e8, king e8, and you're going to lose your queen, which you never even managed to move. Levon Aronian shows up, gets the job done. Instead of taking with the bishop, which would be a huge mistake because white should not be trading the pieces, Wesley so sacrifices the rook. Rook takes f6. The idea of rook takes f6 is so savage. The idea of rook takes f6 is that after bishop takes f6, you don't take back, but you play double check. King g6, queen h6, king f5, rook to f1, king to e6, rook f6, king d7, rook takes, pawn takes, and you emerge with a powerful attack. First, it wouldn't be a recap if we didn't see a sacrifice of the rook. Rook to e8. The idea of rook e8 is to disconnect the rook from the f8 square, and now you threaten a promotion. And if you play knight e8, you block the f8 square. I make a queen. Somehow I sneak in a second queen and I win. Rook e8 is a crazy move. But I don't understand. What if the rook just takes? If the rook just takes, then you sacrifice the queen. Queen takes f6, and whichever piece takes, I promote to a knight. It doesn't matter if you take this way or this way. They both... Oh my god! And if you take like this, well then I don't know. I could just queen h8 and then I take... Oh my goodness. That is absolutely... That is so savage. This man played rook e8. Oh, Merry Christmas. Karabov thought a6 prevents b5. He's not wrong. And now he's going to try to play queen a7. But he forgot about the sacrifice of the rook. Rook a6. It's the most obvious move too. Like you would think it's the most obvious. a6, rook a6. And the idea is that black is stuck. He's going to lose his rook and then he's going to lose all his pawns. Literally, he's going to lose all his pawns. I mean, you can probably just trade as well and win this endgame, but oh my God. Magnus Carlsen, inspired by the actions of the Frenchman with 3 names, sacrifices the rook, bulldozes the center of the board with e5. And now, before he takes the knight, Zwischenzug gives a check, forces a defensive move, and then, knowing that he's about to lose his knight, not just the Zwischenzug, in this position, Magnus Carlsen plays a desperado sacrifice. Knight takes e6. His logic was, I'm going to lose my knight anyway, so I should sacrifice it to open up my opponent's position, and then I'm going to get the knight back. And before I do that, I'm going to throw in a check for good measure, because if g6, I'll take, and I'll threaten the rook, and I can't get taken because of the pin. Oh my god, that walk on the leg just inspired a madman. Because in this position, Rashid Nishmedinov sacrificed the rook on the exact same square as in the game against Chernikov. Rook takes f6. The idea is actually very straightforward. It just has to do with control over the d5 square. Now, you would think that move makes no sense because your rook is gone. You have no attack anymore. An entire potent, powerful attacking piece is gone. But what's more important is the knight coming to d5 because black actually cannot take this knight. It invites way too many problems. So instead of that, black goes here. Now Nishmedinov slides the queen over to the f2 square, fights for the dark squares, and threatens stuff along the f file. Tal now has to jump in his knight and give it away. Now, do you think Nishmedinov will trade the bishop for the knight or the knight for the knight? Traditional wisdom tells you knight for knight is probably better. It's better to preserve the bishop. No. It's better to take with the bishop for 2 reasons. 1, you need to preserve the knight to apply pressure. 2, it's all about timing. You get the rook into the game as fast as possible. E takes f4, and just before we do that, we lunge into the center of the board with e5. We surrender the control of the knight completely, because if bishop takes d5 is played in this position, you open up the king. Rook e1 is a devastating threat. Bishop g2 is possible. Queen e1. King would go to f8. I would then bounce the king back into the center like a ping pong ball, and I would play rook e7 and devastating impact would arrive. And now, the way we get the queen into the attack is very simple. We sacrifice the rook again. 2 rooks sacrificed in one game. This is hardly a sacrifice. This is more of a discovered attack. Tal accepted the capture. Queen h8. The king is mercilessly hunted into the center of the board, and pawn takes f5. And Tal resigned, because after king d6, Nishmedinov would have went here, he would have taken his queen, he would have taken his bishop, he would have taken his soul. He's got all 7 pieces on the board and they're all doing something, and now Ali Reza sacrifices the rook. Rook takes e7. And the entire integrity of the black position is called into question. You cannot take with the queen, even though you would be defending your knight, because I'll go here and that's it. It's a knockout. You have to sacrifice your queen and then knight e7, and then I'll play like queen c5, and yeah, I mean, bishop, knight, rook, rook. But at the end of the day, Alireza's position is too powerful. So instead of that, what Ding does is he takes with the knight. And the idea is that the knight here is still hanging. Well, now Alireza plays rook d4 and simply moves the knight to the e4 square. Now, in this position, Ding actually blunders. With his queen hanging, he should have abandoned all of this right away and played queen e8, apparently. Or he can play knight f d5. Which is a demon move, opening up two separate pins to your position, but then the computer plays queen b6 and claims black can survive. But in all of these complications, Ding kind of plays queen c7, absent, a little bit absent-mindedly, just like, all right, I'm pinning the knight here, and Alireza will probably take back, and Alireza just plays knight e4, and the point of knight e4 is the queens see each other, and knight takes f6 as a check. So, Ding takes. But when the dust settles, Alireza has bishop and knight for a rook. Knight d5. Knight takes d5 played. Well, as it turns out, the idea of knight takes d5 is not to take the knight at all. The idea of knight takes d5 is to lose your knight and then sacrifice the rook. The move rook to e8, designed to bring the bishop back to defend the king and potentially fight in the center, destabilize that pawn, and like a sniper, Wei Yi gets in and sacrifices the rook. This is brilliant positional understanding. While the black pieces are standing around like this, like in a Tetris cube, they're not equipped to defend the position. Queen h7 is now mate. You have to accept the offering. You could play knight f6, but then white wins by getting in like this, threatening a discover check. If the king slides to the corner, bishop g5 is simply overwhelming, combined with rook e3, rook h3. But also if queen e6, if let's say bishop f8, rook e7 shielding the attack. Here, and then it's mate. Oh my god. So he sacks the rook, black has to take, and for a brief moment, Lazaro is up 7 points of material. But his rook and queen are completely useless. The bishop is useless on the light squares. So now, queen h7 check. The best way to end this game is to sacrifice the rook. Rook takes b6, because you know you're going to lose it anyway. So you take it with a check. And the point is that now my pawn is there. That is the secret to attacking chess. It's not just pawn, break everything down. When white is going on this attack with a5, a6, he's preparing for the endgame. The options are black takes and opens the king, or black does this. And then knight takes d5, rook takes b6, f takes e4. He gets the knight back. The pawn on a6 is walking up the board. And it's bad news. King a7, b5. Magnus locks it down. And now it's just about, can we get in? Knight b4, knight c6, takes. He just keeps going. Queen a5, and the knight gets in. And now we simplify down, and it's just a winning endgame. And Magnus saw this and said, okay, well, Yoon has to now, trade rooks, or he's going to lose. But in this position, Yoon Ludwig saw a little bit better and saw that he can sacrifice his rook! Rook takes h5! And the point is, black can block with the bishop, but then it's mate in a few moves. But Magnus, to his credit, can go out with a bang and make history. For the beauty of the game, he does not resign. For the beauty of the game, he does not make mate in 5. For the beauty of the game, Magnus takes the rook and allows Yoon Ludwig to complete his destiny. By bringing the bishop back to e4, the black king has absolutely no legal moves, so he pushes his pawn forward, and this is why they created en passant. Because in this position, after moving his pawn 2 squares and standing side by side with these 2 pawns, Yoon Ludwig had a choice. He could take this way or he could take this way, and he played E takes, F6, en passant, checkmate. Get up and take a bow. H4, rook takes E4. Wait, folks. Dingley Wren sacrifices the rook and wins in beautiful fashion with this unbelievable bishop to D3. Look at these bishops. X-raying the queen and the knight. You can't take because bishop F2 and I win your queen. Oh my goodness. Because Anish Giri in this position sacrifices, not the rook, not yet. He plays knight to G5. What? The heck is that? He just loses the knight. What did he think? He was threatening mate? Anish Giri now sacrificed the rook! Rook takes E6! Oh my goodness! Rook E6 is a dynamite strike. He just sacrificed 8 points of material for 1. For 1. For 2. Rook E6. What is the idea? The idea is that the queen no longer defends G5. And when it goes here, I play knight G5 and it's over. When I say it's over, I mean it's over. Queen H7 is unstoppable. Knight to G5. Rook takes E6. Dear Lord, I wish Anish Giri got up from the board and took a bow. Would have been really weird because, like, there's no commentary, so it would have just looked extremely narcissistic, but he should have done it anyway. It's over. The only thing that Black can do now is sacrifice his queen and try to very quickly trade off all the pieces and not get mated. The problem? Anish Giri has 2 kids. He knows 1 or 2 things about mating. Queen F5. So he's looking for Queen H3. Black goes here, giving up the bishop because bishop H7. Takes, and Anish plays Queen F3, threatening mate again. Check, check. And the very cool, calm, and collected bishop to C2, preventing a mate. Queen H8 is on the way, and Gukesh resigned. So he plays the move bishop A3. The move bishop A3, yes, indeed, does sacrifice the rook. Now, I'm not going to yell it. I'm not going to yell it this time because I want to urge us not to lose this meme. This is really a great meme, and I don't want us to just scream the rook all the time and, you know, then the juice runs out of the fruit and nobody really wants to say the rook anymore. So he sacrifices his rook. I take your rook. Your queen needs to stay defending your bishop, so you go here. The problem is your queen is not defending your bishop because I sacrificed the rook. And when you take, I play queen takes check. And then I take your rook. Oh my god. The move bishop c6. One move by Magnus. Bishop c6. Activated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. In this position, to promote his pawn successfully, Parham Maksudlu sacrificed the rook on h2. It's a forcing sequence that makes king takes h2 happen on the next move. Bishop g1 comes with a check, and e1 sneaks in before it can be taken. Rook h2, a beautiful final move. Ding. Sacrificed. The rook! Bishop e6. Oh my goodness. He is just letting Jan take. He is completely aware that a rook is worth more than a bishop. But if you take this, this opens up a Pandora's box of complications. These pawns are coming down the board. I mean, if something like this were to happen, Black would be in the driver's seat, okay? So bishop e6, Dingley Wren, on the verge of succumbing to the pressure, plays a bishop move and gives up a rook. Just completely sacrifices a rook. This man Ding, despite being a game down in the match and playing with Black and being under pressure the whole time, he's sacrificing a rook to play for a win. I mean, you gotta love this stuff. This is spectacular stuff.